All right, so I asked on the YouTube community page, on my channel's community page about a couple of days ago to have you guys send me in some stuff, some questions. Guitar FAQ is what I called it, and that's what it'll be called. It'll be called a guitar FAQ, I guess. We've got pretty much all from YouTube. We do have one from Twitter, and we'll get to that one, but I am going to go through all of the ones on YouTube. So the first one is from BD, and it's which guitar would be best used as a bard / skald. And I'm going to treat that as two separate guitars because bard and skald are very different. Similar, but different. And for a skald, I don't have an equivalent of the guitar, but if I had to go with a guitar, it would be this. Whatever I put on the screen, it's going to be probably like the Gene Simmons axe bass guitar, the axe guitar. Like it's literally just an axe. It's a weapon. And I feel like that would work for a skald just because, you know, skald is just... It's just a barbarian, but yells a lot and does stuff that the bard does. Either way, that's what they would do. Bard would be probably an acoustic, so something like... So for a bard, I would say something like this. It's not going to get picked up because I don't have a way to mic this up properly. I don't have that routed, so I'm not gonna play the acoustic, but something like an acoustic. They'd play something like this just because, you know, it's Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder. It's medieval fantasy or some shit, right? High fantasy. But yeah, they'd probably play something like this if it was a guitar. But yeah, I hope that answers the question. All right, the next one is from Jack Gar Prime, and they're asking, what is the worst guitar that you've ever owned? Let's see, we've owned quite a lot of guitars over the years, ever since I was a kid. Can't really think of one that was the worst. Actually, you know what? I think I can. I didn't own it for very long, and I didn't really play it. It was a, So, if you've seen the brand of guitars that I played on a couple of different occasions, one of them was on the Goldstein reaction video. That is called a Switch Vibracell. The brand is Switch. They make these really cool plastic composite body guitars. They don't exist anymore because nobody liked them, but they're super cool guitars and they were super cheap. I bought one off a Guitar Center because it was like 200 bucks, and the pictures weren't very great, but when I got it, and I'll see if I can find it, I definitely have the picture somewhere, but it was super screwed up. It was like, I did not want to spend the money to fix the guitar up, because I had bought two Vibracell guitars, and one of them is I still have, which is all the way over there. It's a yellow one, if you can see that yellow, red, this one right here. My finger is just pointing right at it. I believe I used it in one of the videos. It was either the Hinotori cover or the Weather Hackers cover. I think it was the Hinotori cover. But that one, that's the one I ended up keeping. The other one, I just returned to Guitar Center because it was just unplayable. It just sucked. It was just terrible. But yeah, I think that was probably the worst guitar I ever owned. And yeah, no, that definitely has to be up there. I can't really think of any others. Because like when I was growing up, me and my dad got guitars and traded guitars a lot for other guitars, so it's kind of hard to remember from like when you were, you know, a kid, trying to remember what guitars were bad, right? And this next one is from Chi 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 Chi. You've always wondered, how can musicians play almost anything and immediately know which sound is which? Is it like a second language to you guys? Actually, yeah, it's very similar to like knowing another language. After a while, you get, and this is not something that I can very well explain, but I can explain it as best I can. When there's two different things, there's people who have perfect pitch, and then there's people who have, I can't remember the other name for it, but it's basically you've learned pitch, and you know what sounds like what, and there's different variations of people who have what's near perfect pitch, and then there's people who have a pretty good ear that they can just pick stuff out. When I'm doing my covers, or not my covers, but when I'm doing the breakdowns, I'm approximating what it sounds like to me, and more often than not, it's sounds like it's pretty on the key. So it's, for a lot of us, it's once you've played around for so long, you understand what sounds like what. Like, there's some times where I just visually know where it's being played on the guitar without having to play it. Like, I listen to it and I can just think, oh yeah, it sounds like it's... Right? It's very... At a certain point, you know where it is on the fretboard, what notes are being played. And this is pretty typical for pretty much any musician who's been playing for a long time, is that usually, like with me, who's not very classically trained, I learned by ear a lot and I'm mostly self-taught. I can pick things out relatively accurately just by listening to it. Maybe I need to listen to it a couple of times to get it, but I typically can. Whereas somebody who is musically trained can probably, and has been practicing this for a long time, can pick it up probably a lot faster than I can. But, you know, it just depends on the player. It depends on the player and the person, how often, you know, how much they're playing and how much they're learning, you know, how much they know their instrument. But, yeah, hopefully that's a good explanation. But yeah, that's pretty much what it's like. It's kind of like learning a second language because you have all these different keys. You have major, minor, diminished, dominant. Like, you have a whole bunch of things that you have to know, and a lot of it isn't you're actively thinking about it. A lot of it just clicks with you. You just know when you hear something that sounds diminished, you just know it's diminished, or what's minor, or what's major. You just kind of know. And yeah, so hopefully that explains it. Let's go on to the next one. All right, so this next question is from Marie La Marie, and they're asking, is it easier to fingerstyle or to play chords normally? It's not really a matter of easier or not. It's really just what kind of flavor do you want to go for, because I could take like an open E or an open D in my case, since this guitar is in D standard, and I could right, or you can do fingerstyle. There's not really it's not really so much easier or not. It just depends on what you're going for. If I'm playing on like a nylon string acoustic and I'm playing classical, I'm not really going to be using a pick. I'm mostly going to be fingerstyling, because then you get into stuff like rasgueado and, you know, flamenco guitar where you're and I'm not very practiced in this. I haven't done classical in a long time, but how's it go? Right? So you have this kind of freedom with your hand for fingerstyle. But it's not so much easier or not. Like, if I'm gonna pick between if I'm gonna arpeggiate a chord or play chords with a pick, to me that's easier than fingerstyle. It really just depends on how you grew up and how you learned. But yeah, so it's typically you're gonna be faster with the pick. Just on average, you're going to be faster, and you can probably play things. Like, if I wanted to play that with fingerstyle, I don't think I'd be able to do the... Right? So, yeah, it's just a matter of preference. And that's typically what it's going to be like for guitar, is it's going to be, for how you play guitar, a matter of preference. All right, so this next one is from Mega Pagliacci. Pagliacci? I think it's Pagliacci. But how long did it take you to grow your hair out that long? I've been growing this out since like middle school-ish. I think it's been about 16-ish years, and unless you guys haven't seen just how long it actually is, like, that's how my hair is very long. It goes down to my waist, and it's very curly on top of that, so it's even longer if it's straightened out. So yeah, about 16 years. I did have it at one point when I went into high school where I cut it to shoulder length, and that was a terrible idea, so I ended up never wanting to get a haircut like that again. So it's only ever been cutting the split ends just to trim it maybe like an inch or two. But other than that, I've just never cut it. So hopefully that, I think that explains it. It's been about 16-ish years, give or plus, you know, change. This next one is from Abel Alejandro Morera. And it is, could you explain what is djent exactly? If you know about it, of course. And one more thing, why are you so cool while playing the guitar? First thing, I don't know. People just say I am. I don't really get it. I'm not that kind of person that just goes, oh yeah, hell yeah, I'm fucking cool when I play guitar. You know, I am definitely one of those people that if somebody else is playing guitar and they play cool shit, I will think they're cool as fuck. But I'm not one of those people that thinks that I myself am like super cool at playing guitar. I just play guitar. That's really it. I just play. I practiced a lot and I just like playing guitar. So I don't really know the answer to that question. If you guys think I am, you guys can tell me. But as in reference to the first question, can I explain what djent is exactly? Yes, I can. On to the next one. This is from Tap Water. And it's, what's something you want to get, but you can't afford or isn't available at the moment? I would love to get a guitar by Kiesel. If you don't know who Kiesel is a guitar, custom guitar manufacturer. They make custom shop guitars over in Escondido. I think that's how you say the name. It's like, what is it? Yeah, Escondido, California. And they used to be called Carvin guitars before they split from Carvin and they started using Kiesel several years back. But they make some really awesome guitars, and I have a couple of Carvins that have been seen on this channel before. And I'd love to get a custom-made Kiesel, but those are very pricey. They start at like, they're in the $2,000 to $3,000 range. They're quite pricey, and I can't afford that right now. Okay, so the next one is Top Wand. Difference between 6 and 7 string guitars other than the numbers, of course. Okay, so the difference with the 6 string and a 7 string is, of course, there's the numbers. You have one more string, but the difference is that you're getting extended range. These are what these guitars are called. 7, 8, and 9 string guitars are extended range guitars. And all they're really doing is they're repeating the pattern of, you know, E, B, G, D, or yeah, D, A, E. So this is in D standard, so it's not the name of those notes right now, but it starts, you know, E, A, D, G, B, E, right? What a 7 string is doing is it's just repeating from E. So we would go from E on the top to B. So now we have, you know, we're on B. B would be the 7th string. So we're extending the range lower and lower by repeating the pattern. Now, when it comes to an 8 string, 8 string's a little bit different because the 8th string is like tuned down technically to like G, what is it, to like A sharp. It's tuned down a half step so that you're not playing, you know, so you're not playing chords like this. Because if you were to play a normal power chord on G and B, you get this ugly sound. So instead, it takes the note and it raises it up a half step. So we tune it up so that instead of this, when you play a power chord, it sounds. So that's really the difference. You're just getting an extended range, so you're getting an extra string on top that's going lower. So you've got more range on the low end. All right, so two Doges, one bong. Yeah, we have some stoner names in here, but you got me. So they're asking, how can you be more accurate when it comes to finger placement, especially when playing rock or metal? Finger placement accuracy comes just from practicing. One of the things a lot of guitar teachers and people will tell you is to do stuff like... Right? And that just teaches you kind of picking accuracy along with, you know, like picking accuracy along with fingering accuracy. And like when it becomes just practicing and playing chords and stuff will eventually get you more accurate while playing. A lot of the problems that people will have is they're not ambidextrous, or they're not like me, who's actually left-handed, but I play right-handed. So for me, my left hand was always stronger than my right, so my right hand was the one that needed work, while my left hand had no problem. So I never really had much of a problem, you know, fingering chords and playing notes anywhere. Like, chords weren't much of a problem. Maybe bar chords a little bit because I didn't have the finger strength at the time to do... right, to do these big 6-string, you know, bar chords. But, really, I kind of had a little bit of an advantage because my left hand is stronger. But really just playing chords, like, you just practice them over and over again until you get them right. So you're going to be... A lot of people, and I've seen it with some beginners, where they'll be, you know... where they're just not pressing hard enough, or they're not, you know, they're you know, they're playing it on the wrong set of strings, you know, right? It just comes with practice. You just gotta sit there, force your hands, and have them sit there and know this is where you need to be, and you've got to repeat that for hours and hours and hours. Like, I have been playing guitar for a long time, so I've had thousands of hours to practice this shit. So, you know, even then I still make mistakes when I'm, you know, trying to play stuff. But for the most part, you're just going to be practicing stuff slow, or you're going to be practicing, you know, chords and just where you're going to be putting your fingers on the on scales. So if I'm like, and of course you can over exaggerate too if you're really slow. Like if you're really slow to play, and you really, like, I've seen people who will play like beginners, right? And it's really just about, this is where your finger needs to be, this is where your next one needs to go, move this one. You know, you just have to get used to the pattern, right? Same thing with playing bigger scales. So right, you're just gonna eventually get it after practicing for so long. If you're practicing correct and you're building up your proper technique, then you'll get better at it. For me specifically, I played a lot along to a lot of songs, so I was playing, you know, right? I just played along to songs. I tried to figure out where their chords were, like AC/DC stuff. So when I was playing, you know, Back in Black, like, right? When I was playing Back in Black, old AC/DC, a lot of older songs, like, I just kept playing along to the song until I started to get more accurate and I stopped making as many mistakes. So that was me. That's one way people do it, but there's tons of different ways to getting more accurate, and mine was just one of the ways. There's definitely a lot of other ways to do it. Okay, so Jaguar Keck asked, favorite guitar players and bands. You love the breakdowns, and you would be cool to see me go back or check out other OSTs. Well, I'll definitely be doing other OSTs, but as far as favorite guitar players and bands go, so for favorite guitar players, in my top 5, and this is really no actual, you know, they're not ranked in any particular order. It's Randy Rhoads, Alexi Laiho, John Petrucci, Steve Vai, and then usually, you know, it always changes. You know, there'll be people like Jason Becker are up there, Marty Friedman's up there, George Lynch is up there, Warren D. Martini's up there, you know, Joe Satriani, Yngwie Malmsteen. There's a lot of guitar players that I could list. Like, if you go and look up all the top, like, shredder guitar heroes or big guitar heroes, those are generally the same people that I like because I grew up listening to a lot of them, and that's just who I ended up getting into. But as far as bands, you know, Ozzy was a big guy, was a big band, like a big group and artists I really liked. Black Sabbath. Who else? Children of Bodom, Dream Theater. Nightwish was really big for me when I was in high school. Nevermore was really big. Old school Metallica and Megadeth. Who else? AC/DC was big when I first started growing up. Yeah, no, there's a lot. Maybe I'll have to make a separate video just based off of guitar players and bands, because that's a long list. There's a lot of people that I've liked over the years and that I still listen to. So that's something that's really big to answer, but that's just generally, in general, that's what I like. Let's see, Marina Hayez. Is the guitar a good beginner's instrument? I'd say that it's easier. It's easier than something like if I'm playing keyboard, which I have here. Wow. You know, with keyboard, there's a big difference in how you're playing, because you have all of this to try and do an arpeggio. If I'm, you know, you have techniques where you have to crawl your fingers over itself or use both hands for arpeggios and playing chords and stuff, whereas with the guitar, everything is usually just a straight line down, or it's slightly going up the fretboard or down the fretboard. If I wanted to play, you know, an arpeggio, right? It's fairly simple to play, right? Or if I wanted to play a scale, right? It's very straightforward, and you have boxes on the guitar. With piano and other instruments, it's a little bit different because they're just not set the same way. Stringed instruments definitely, I think, are a lot easier to learn. And guitar definitely was one of the easier instruments I learned. Even with piano, I just never stuck around with piano because, oh my god, was it just... Like, I don't even have some of the basics down. I have to go back and relearn. But guitar, I think, is a very good beginner's instrument. But just know is that it's a lot easier to get into. It's definitely a fairly good beginner's instrument. It's just the one thing that you're going to have a hard time with is, and this is made even easier compared to other string instruments, because most string instruments, they don't have frets. They don't have these lines that go down the fretboard. They're like violins and stuff where they're just fretless. They just have a smooth fretboard, and you have to know where the pitch is. Otherwise, you're going to be flat or sharp, or it's going to sound nasty. Whereas with a guitar, in general, I know where my notes are because we have these little these metal like stripes that are going down the fretboard, so it's a lot easier for us. So yeah, definitely if you're looking for a beginner's instrument, go and try and pick up guitar. The only hard part is going to be, of course, hand coordination, which is pretty much essential on every instrument that you play, is coordinating both of your hands for the most part. But yeah. Do I think it's a good beginner's instrument? I think it is. All right, so this one is from Mazdrian Alt. This is a question you've been meaning to ask for a while. You've shown off a lot of guitars throughout your videos, but exactly how many do you have? You need the numbers, man. Let me see. Roughly, if I remember correctly, and this changes, we have somewhere, and this is counting basses and acoustics, right? We have something in the neighborhood of like 42 guitars in total, 42, 45. And yeah, we collect a lot of guitars. Like, I would like to say about half of this collection is stuff that I've bought over the years on my own. The other half is from from my dad, who's also a guitar player, and he was collecting guitars around the time that I started playing guitar. So yeah, we share the same collection, but it's pretty much half and half at this point. Yeah, so yeah, that's what I want to say is it's around there. Although it could change, we might get rid of a guitar or two. We've done it in the past where we've traded and sold guitars that we didn't really particularly play anymore for a new one. And, you know, yeah, so that's generally what it is. If you want to see all of the collection, however, we're only a few dollars away from hitting 40 a month on Patreon. If you go over there, then you help us out, then I will gladly show off every guitar and explain everything in a probably several hour video, which is how many we have. So yeah, just go over there, links down in the description. And this one is Jack Holden. How long have you been playing, and what's your favorite theme in Strive? How long have I been playing? I've been playing since, and this is actually easy for me to remember because I started on my birthday a bunch of years ago, but I've been playing for just over 20 years now. My birthday was on August 20th last month, and yeah, and that month marked 20 years of me playing guitar. So I've been playing for 2 decades. So for about 2/3 of the time that I've been on this planet, I've been playing guitar. So yeah, that's how long I've been playing for. As for my favorite theme in Strive, it's either still gonna be like Society, Play the Hero, or Let Me Carve Your Way. Let Me Carve Your Way has really just been getting, like, I've just really been listening to that a lot. I love that song. It's absolutely amazing. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question. The next one is from Kendrick Bautista. How long have you been playing, thinking about learning it? And that was answered in the last one, that about 20, actually exactly 20 years. And if you're thinking about learning it, go for it. I've seen people who have started when they were 14, when they were 16, when they were 9, when they were 5. I've seen people start from all age ranges, and they've all have the potential to become amazing guitar players. That's the thing about guitar, is that it really doesn't matter about what age you start at. As long as you're practicing a lot and you're committed to playing the guitar, you can get good at any age. All right, and then the last one is from one of our Patreon supporters, Paul Jung, and he says, total noob here, how do you switch your fingers positioning between notes and chords so fast? Again, that's kind of related to an earlier question. It's really just about practicing. So in the beginning, you're not going to be playing, you know, you're not going to try and play super... You're not going to try and shred. I mean, people are going to try, but usually it's going to sound like a Kerry King solo. It's going to sound like that. You know, you're going to sound like you're auditioning for Slayer. The way that people start is that usually when we're learning technique is that we're playing slow. And now I don't ascribe to that slow, you know, you have to play something slow before you can speed it up. You have to play it. You have to learn your technique slow. So if I'm going to learn how to alternate pick, I'm gonna... and then slowly speed it up as I'm more used to how the motion works. And then I'm going to be pushing that as fast as I can, so... Right, I'm going to go as fast as I can once I learn the technique. But that's generally how you learn. You're going to start off practicing how to do chords, how to do fingering positions, how to play scales. You're going to learn the technique slow. And then you're going to go fast once you're comfortable with the technique. Like if I were to start sweep picking right now, if I was a total noob, I wouldn't be trying to do... Right? It would become... It'd come out as noise. You would start off... Maybe even slower than that. It's kind of hard once you're used to it to play something really slow. But that's generally what's going to happen, is you're going to be playing it at like super slow speeds. I'm talking about like 40 BPM, right? you're going to be playing it super slow, one note at a time to get used to it. And that's going to teach you finger placement. It's going to teach you correct picking. You're going to be more accurate when you're learning the technique. And then when you're comfortable, when you start playing it at like a moderate speed, so if you're playing it like... right? Once you're starting to get about there and you understand, then you're going to start playing it. Until you mess up. You're going to be playing as fast as you can, and then you back it down a little bit, and then you practice at a speed that you're comfortable at, and then you keep pushing it. That's generally how you improve on guitar, is you're going to get comfortable with something, and then you're going to go as fast as you can until you start really screwing up. Then you back it off, practice it at a speed that's almost to your limit or at your limit, and then push it again, and then try and go faster each time. Of course, you're going to hit a plateau, but that's generally how that goes. That's how you practice, you know. Of course, there's other things that will teach you technique, like the... And then there's also the... There's tons of different techniques to teach, you know, how to be more accurate with your finger placements and switching fast. It's just all a matter of how you practice and how you apply those things when you're playing. So, yeah, hopefully that answers that. And then we had one last question, which hopefully I can get to before my camera runs out of space again. And this is on Twitter. This is from Hey Uncle Jesse. So, what's up, Jesse? Good buddy that I know. And he asked, your favorite two guitars, your least favorite two guitars, when are we collabing, picks you use, and favorite electric strings. All right, so when it comes to my two favorite guitars, the dos favorite guitars that I have, the first one is going to be this guy right here. This is an LTD Alexi 600, I believe. The SE, yeah. So this is the LTD Alexi 600 SE. The reason why I really love this guitar is, one, I got this a very long time ago on I believe it was Christmas one year. My dad saw that I really wanted this guitar at a music shop, and I've been, at the time, and I still am, a very massive Children of Bodom fan, and I've been listening to them since I was 14. So it's been a very long time that I've been listening to the Children of Bodom. And I ended up getting this guitar for Christmas, and during their Blood Drunk tour, I went to San Francisco for a show they were doing at the Regency Ballroom, and I got to meet them at a music store before. This was when Rope was in the band, and this is when Alexi was still alive. He's one of the biggest guitar players to me, and rest in peace. He's an amazing guitar player, and I listened to Bodom so much in high school. Like, I knew so much Bodom. It won't focus because it's not autofocusing lens, but that's Alexi's signature on the front, and then we have on the back we have Henka and Rope's signature. So the bassist, the other guitar player at the time, Rope, and Alexi signed this guitar when I took it to a meet and greet. And then this became the sticker guitar. This became the one that I just threw a whole bunch of stickers on. There's a Opeth sticker back here, the Norwegian flag. Back when I had an Indie Box sponsorship, there's a whole bunch of stuff from Arcade Shock. And I guess one, Gears of War, Miku, yeah, Japanese flag, the Goku. There's a whole bunch of stuff on here. And then I've modded this over the years. It used to have an EMG HC because that's what he used to play. And this is a Seymour Duncan Black Winter pickup, and this guitar is just such an awesome single coil, or not single pickup guitar. And it's one of the few Floyd Rose guitars that stays in tune. And that's amazing to me. But yeah, no, this thing has had so much stuff done to it. And yeah, this one is literally, if I had to pick one guitar, probably would be this one. Most definitely would be this one, because it just has so much sentimental value. It's not only an amazing playing guitar, it's signed by one of my biggest guitar heroes, and that he's no longer here anymore. I should also mention about that Alexi is that it's a very limited edition. I forget how many are made, but I think it's like, I want to say that there was only like 1,000 or something of those made. There's not very many. This is the second guitar. This is a Carvin C7, I believe it is. I'm not entirely sure the model, but it is their Strat style guitar in a 7-string. This one is also another really, really cool guitar that I got and has a lot of special value to me. And for those of you who don't know, Carvin became, or the people who made Carvin guitars split off and became Kiesel. I talked about that earlier. Kiesel, they make basically everything. All their guitars are custom shop made here in the USA. This is the same when they were doing Carvin. And this one actually wasn't, I got lucky. So around the time, around 2009, 2010, 7 strings were getting really popular. I think we got this in 2008 or 2009. We got this a long time ago. And at the time, 7 strings hadn't really become super mainstream yet. You had people like Nevermore and other bands, but you didn't really have a lot of people playing 7s. And this sat in the Guitar Center where I live for months. People played it. People thought it was cool. I played it. I really, really wanted it, but, you know, being a teenager and not having money, I didn't have a way to buy it. But fortunately, we did some trades. We traded another guitar, and we ended up getting like $1,200. This thing was $1,100 at the time, which is an amazing steal considering it comes with a G&L tweed case, which by itself is also expensive. They only wanted $1,100 for this thing because, one, 7 strings weren't popular back then. They hadn't kicked off. This was like a year or two before they really took off. And the other cool thing about it was that this was back before they started making their own tuners. This has Spurzle locking tuners, which are expensive tuners, especially for, you know, a 7-string. But one of the cool things about it is that this was a super customized thing. This had block inlays. This has a Koa top. You know, it's got all the bells and whistles. It's got phase shifting or phase switching. It's got coil splits for these two humbuckers. And it's just ebony fretboard. It's got a really nice dark ebony. And it just sounds killer. And yeah, this thing is, like, if I had to pick 2 guitars, those 2 would be the ones I'd never, you know, part with. Like, I don't have any least favorite. Like, it's hard to say what my least favorites would be. Actually, you know what? Okay, so this one is actually a really cool guitar. It's an ESP LTD TE1000, their Tele style. This is a super cool guitar. I just don't play it super often. Mainly because the access up here isn't super great. You really have to, you know, you really have to stretch your hands because there's no like carving on the back. That's why I would like this sculpted out more. The only reason that this isn't like super hated or I haven't sold this is because it has an Evertune. And what an Evertune does is basically I can abuse the guitar all I want. Like I can do this, right? Right? I can hold it by the strings. And it's going to be perfectly in tune every time. Evertunes are fucking amazing things. But this would have to be one of the least favorite, and it's really just because of that. And the fact that I don't really use EMGs too much. Evertune is the only thing that really saves it. My least favorite one is going to be over there, this Gibson right here, this Les Paul. And I'll show you in a second. Again, it's a really cool guitar and I really like it. The only problem is that it's Gibson and I haven't changed and modified it enough so that it'll stay the fuck in tune. It doesn't have what's called a string butler, so it makes the strings go straight. You have seen it on a couple of other guitars, the Tokai, this gold one right here. That one has what's called a string butler. All the strings go through and they're straight and then they go out. That way it's more stable when it's in tune. I'll probably explain a lot of this kind of stuff that I do for my guitars in a separate video, but basically it stays more in tune, these Les Paul guitars that have it, whereas that one over there doesn't stay in tune very much, and it's because of that. It's very hard to say what my least two favorites are, just because, like, in actuality, it's really just I haven't modded it to the point where I now really like playing it. But yeah, that's really it. As far as the other ones, what kind of picks do I use? I've used several over the years. Right now I'm using this, which is the Misha Mansour bulb. It's the Misha Mansour signature Dunlop flow picks. They're made in Delrin. Absolutely love these right now. I've always used flow picks. Before that, it was Jim Dunlop Ultex, which are the ones that Brendan Small uses, which if you don't know, that's the guy who does Metalocalypse, which are these guys. And these are 1.14 millimeters. I used to use really thick picks, like 2 millimeter picks and stuff, and then now I'm down to these ones, which are 0.73 millimeters, so they're very thin picks. My favorite guitar strings are going to be Elixir Polywebs. I put Elixir Polywebs on all of my guitars because those things never die. Those strings never go bad. There's a white Fender that I have back here where the strings have been on there for like 8 years at this point. 8-year-old guitar strings still look brand new, still play as nice as they did day one. Those guitar strings last forever. Elixir Polyweb strings. They're a little more expensive. They're like $5 more expensive than normal strings, but you put them on, never gonna run out. They're never gonna die. They're never gonna go bad. The only time you're gonna switch it is if it breaks. So, if Elixir ever sees this, or Elixir ever reaches out to me and wants to sponsor me, I will happily take an Elixir sponsorship because I love Polywebs. They're absolutely the best guitar strings for me. The only thing you sacrifice is you can't pick scrape. Now this one is an Optaweb. This one doesn't have Polywebs on it just because they were out at the time, but you can't do that, which I rarely ever pick scrape to begin with like that, so doesn't matter. Yeah, there's that. And then when are we collabing? I don't know. When do you want to? Because we can always do like, Gerudo Valley or something, Jesse. I know you got that Spanish flamenco guitar nonsense going on. You use those hands to do some better fingerstyle than I can. We can do something. Just depends on when you want to. But yeah, no, I think that answers that. I think that answers every question. So as I was pretty much finishing up doing the video, a pretty good question came in over on the Patreon from one of our awesome supporters, the Hardy one. And the question that they're asking is, you lightly mentioned 7 strings in one of the rating videos and how you'd rather just use one of them rather than drop a 6 string into a particular tuning. Would you go further in depth here? What other types of advantages does a 7 string offer? Is there a reason you won't just use one all the time instead of a 6 string if having the extra string adds more options? Okay, so there's a lot to unpack in this question, but basically the reason why I use a 7 string over a 6 string, especially when it comes to B standard, is because typically a lot of the stuff that's written that sounds like it's in B, like in the Strive soundtrack, can just be played on a 7 string because it's not doing any open chords. What I mean by open chords is stuff like G, D, C, A major, A minor, A major, B major, A minor. Like, if I'm playing stuff that involves open strings, then it's not a problem. You know, if I'm not, I'm sorry, if I'm not playing anything that involves an open chord, then I'm pretty much fine when it comes to playing stuff that's in B, on a 7-string. Like, most of Strive's soundtrack is, you know, the... Right? It's a lot of chords, a lot of single note stuff, and there's not really any... Right? You're not really playing anything that's open chords. And that's why it just is fine to play most of the soundtrack, most of that soundtrack and a lot of songs that are in B standard that way. Now, some people will actually... Now, the difference is when somebody actually writes something on a in B standard on a 6-string, and they're incorporating stuff, you know, they're incorporating these open chords, like, because if I wanted to play like this G chord right here, if I wanted to play that on a 7-string, but I wanted to play, let's say it's in B, so if I wanted to play, was that D? If I wanted to play that here, I would, this is what it'd be like if I took a G chord and moved it up. Right? Doesn't sound the same. If I wanted to play a proper, that same chord, but up, I'd have to play it like this. Let me see if I can get the fingering down. Let's see, it'd be like this. This is awkward. Right, if I want to play the G chord that way, but, you know, down into D. If I wanted to play it that way, I had to play it like that, whereas if I just tuned a 6-string down to B standard, I can still keep all the same, you know, chord shapes, right? I don't have any issues with that. So that's pretty much why it just depends. For most things, you can just play on a 7. The reason why, too, is because a lot of people who play in B are playing a 7-string. They're writing riffs that are like... Right? They're just playing chords. They're usually just playing it for the heaviness of the low B. And so that answers, I think, most of that. So that's really just the advantages I answered in a previous question, which is you just get the extended range, so I can play, you know, these heavy, chunky chords. I get to play in B. Right? If I want to play in B and have this low, chuggy tune... while still having the high E up here. So I can still solo and play stuff that's... Right? I still have the ability to play these notes up here, while not having to tune the guitar down. Because if I tune it down all the way to B, I'm tuning it down, what is it? 2 whole steps and a half step down. So this note now becomes this note. This is the highest note that I can play if I'm playing on a guitar that's tuned down, you know, to B standard. That's the highest note I can play on 24 frets. Of course, with 22, I believe it's, you know, that note. But that's pretty much the reason why you wouldn't just play a 7-string the entire time. If Daisuke had written anything, or if anybody plays in B, like Old Arch Enemy is recorded in B standard. Like, I think the first few albums or something like that is in B standard before they had a female singer. The problem is that if I'm playing in B standard, they wrote their stuff on a 6-string, so a lot of their stuff is gonna have these... Right? They're using a lot of, they arpeggiate a lot of open strings, and with that, you can't really arpeggiate the chords the same way, or play open chords in the same way on a 7-string. So if I wanted to play Old Arch Enemy, I'd have to bring that guy out, the BC Rich that's tuned to B standard, just to play Old Arch Enemy. So that's kind of like, that's kind of a I guess that's kind of a scenario where I would be playing 6-string over a 7-string. But usually, if I'm going to be playing something that's in B standard, it's usually going to be a 7-string riff that's written on a 7-string. So I'd just be playing it that way. So I'd be playing it on a 7-string. But for the case, like when I did Faust theme, is that I just wanted to play that guitar, and you can transcribe that onto a 6-string and onto a 7-string. I could have played the Faust riff. Right? You could play that easily on a 7-string. But yeah, no, that's just the reason. There's really no inherent advantage over playing a 7-string over a 6-string. It's just play whatever you want to play. You can put that guitar in any tuning you want. Same with this. If I wanted to drop B this, I could, or drop A it, or whatever it is, I could just drop the low note. Do the same thing. I could, of course, also retune the guitar so that I'm playing, you know, chords if I wanted to play the G chord properly up here, I could. But then that's dropping this string here, this one down. And it's just a lot of, like, crap that you have to manage. So, yeah, no, it's, God, I take a long time answering these questions. I've never done an F.A.Q, so I don't know how to answer questions in a short, timely manner. But that's basically it. I hope that answers the question that was in this video. This is going to be a long video. I'm going to have to cut down a lot of crap in this video because there's a lot of excess talking, but that is the video. If you guys have any other questions, maybe I'll do another one. Just leave it in the comments down below on this video, and any questions you have there, I'll answer it in another video at some point in time. But if you did like this video, do like it, do share it, do all that good stuff. If you want to support what I do here on YouTube, you can go over to patreon.com/hurtbox, whatever it is, links down in the description. There's also a Teespring store if you want to get merch and help support that way. Subbing to the channel. I'll start working on membership stuff if anybody wants to do memberships. Those have been open, it's just I haven't really written. Do I speak English or not? I haven't written anything down, particularly for it. So I might start adding stuff there. But yeah, so far that's pretty much all there is. It's all down in the description. And yeah, thank you all for watching. Thanks for everybody who left a comment and asked these questions. I was expecting a lot more like Mimi stuff, but for the most part, you guys asked some pretty good questions, pretty legitimate questions that I at least that I could at least honestly answer, right? So yeah, thank you everybody for doing that. But anyway, I'm Dan, this is HurtboxTV, and I will see you guys in the next video, which will be whenever I get to making another video. So take care everybody, and peace.